Welcome to The Explainer. You know, we spend a lot of time locking down our cloud environments, but what happens when those private resources need to talk to the outside world? Today, we're diving into the solution for that exact problem, Azure NAT Gateway. Think of it as the secure exit door for your cloud.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the problem itself. Then I'll introduce you to NAT Gateway and all its benefits. We'll compare the different versions you can choose from, cover some limitations you need to know, and then wrap up with why this is getting really important for anyone using Azure.
All right, so first things first, let's set the stage. You've built this perfectly secure cloud setup. You've got virtual machines and services tucked away in private networks, totally isolated from the public internet. But, they still need to get out sometimes.
And that's the big question, right? Your servers need to download security patches. Your apps have to call external APIs to function. So how do you let them make those calls out without opening a door for threats to come flooding back in? It's a classic security puzzle.
Well, this is where Azure steps in with a really elegant, purpose-built service. Let's talk about the Azure NAT Gateway.
So what is it really? At its heart, NAT Gateway is like a secure one-way exit. It lets all of your private stuff inside a subnet go through it to reach the internet, but, and this is key, it slams the door on any unsolicited traffic trying to get in. It only lets in responses to connections that your resources started.
And you know what's beautiful? The setup is dead simple. Seriously, you create the gateway, you give it a public IP address, and then you just tell your subnet to use it. That's it. No messing around with complex routing tables just to get this basic, essential function working.
So now that we know what it is and that it's easy to set up, let's dig into the really good stuff, the powerful benefits, and why this thing is such a game changer for your network design.
What's so cool here is how NAT Gateway just naturally fits into a zero-trust security mindset. You know that idea of never trust, always verify? Your VMs, they don't need their own public IPs anymore, not a single one. Instead, they all funnel out through the gateway's static, predictable IP. And that is huge, because now you can just give that one IP to your partners to add to their firewall allow lists. Super clean, super secure.
And it's not just about security. This thing is built to be tough. We're not talking about a single virtual machine that could be a point of failure. Nope. This is a fully managed, distributed service. It's designed to survive multiple failures in the background without you ever noticing an outage. All that operational headache, Azure handles it for you.
And talk about scale. It's ready for massive scale from the second you create it. You just hook it up to a subnet, and boom, it's ready to handle every single outbound connection from every single resource in there. And if you need even more power, you can throw up to 16 public IPs or a whole IP prefix right at it.
To put that performance into perspective, a single standard NAT gateway can churn through 50 gigabits per second of data. That is an absolutely massive fire hose of throughput for outbound traffic.
All right, so, like with a lot of Azure services, you've got options. Right now, there are two versions, or SKUs, of NAT Gateway. It's really important to know the difference so you can pick the right one for your setup.
This table lays it all out pretty clearly. You've got the original standard SKU, which is solid, but it's zonal. The new standard v2, which is still in preview, is a whole different beast. It's zone redundant right out of the box, it doubles the throughput, it adds critical IPv6 support, and it hooks into flow logs for much better monitoring. It's a huge leap forward.
And just look at this chart, it really says it all, doesn't it? We're going from an already impressive 50 gigabits per second with the standard SKU to a staggering 100 gigabits per second with standard v2. That's a massive jump. Okay, but with any service, and especially when something's in preview, you have to read the fine print. It's super important to know the limitations before you start building your critical infrastructure on top of it.
So, for that shiny new standard v2, there are a few things to keep in mind. First, it has to use the newer standard v2 public IPs. Also, you can't attach it to certain special subnets, like the ones used for Azure SQL Managed Instance. And for all you infrastructure as code fans, you should know it's not supported by Terraform. Yet.
And listen up, because this next point is a really big one. You can't just click a button and upgrade from standard to standard v2. As the documentation makes crystal clear, you have to create a brand new standard v2 gateway and then swap it in. It's a replacement, not an in-place upgrade, and that's a crucial detail for any migration plan.
Okay, let's bring this all home. I want to connect everything we've talked about to a huge change that's coming to Azure. This change is exactly why understanding NAT Gateway is becoming less of a nice-to-have and more of an absolute necessity.
You really need to pay attention to this timeline. For years, Azure has given virtual networks a default, automatic way to get to the internet. Well, that's ending. On March 31, 2026, that default access is being retired for good. After that date, you must have an explicit, clearly defined way for your resources to get out. And you guessed it, NAT Gateway is the recommended solution.
So you see, this isn't just some minor technical update. It's a fundamental shift in how Azure networking works, pushing everyone toward a more secure and intentional design. So the question I want to leave you with is a simple one. With this change on the horizon, is your network ready for the future?